What if the secret to being desired, respected, and remembered isn't about giving more, but about giving less? Carl Jung once said, "Loneliness does not come from having no people around you, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to you." And that's the paradox we're exploring today. Why do psychologists, philosophers, and even modern scientists agree that being too available destroys your social power? This isn't about playing games, this is about understanding the deepest layers of human nature. Why we want what we can't have, why familiarity breeds indifference, and how to use this knowledge to transform your relationships, your career, and your self-worth. By the end of this video, you'll see your interactions through an entirely new lens. Let's begin. Carl Jung's concept of the shadow self reveals a brutal truth. We are repelled by the parts of others that reflect our own unhealed wounds. When you're constantly available, you become a mirror, forcing people to confront their own insecurities about neediness, dependence, and validation. Jung wrote extensively about how the eternal child archetype, those who crave constant attention, remain trapped in emotional immaturity. He argued that true adulthood requires the courage to set boundaries, to be comfortable in silence, and to understand that your worth isn't determined by how quickly you respond to others. In his private letters, Jung noted that his most psychologically resilient patients were those who could endure solitude without desperation. This aligns with his famous quote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are, and who you are is not someone who exists solely for the convenience of others." Modern therapy frameworks like internal family systems build on this idea, showing how people-pleasing parts of ourselves often mask deeper fears of abandonment. But here's the critical insight. When you stop treating your attention as an infinite resource, others stop treating it as disposable. Sigmund Freud's controversial pleasure principle explains why human desire thrives on unpredictability. He observed that our psyche is wired to seek tension and release, not constant satisfaction. This is why the same person who ignores your thoughtful messages will obsess over someone who replies sporadically. Freud's later work on the death drive takes this further. We are unconsciously drawn to self-sabotage, to recreating scenarios where love feels uncertain because stability triggers existential anxiety. Behavioral psychology experiments like B.F. Skinner's work with variable reward schedules prove this isn't just theory, it's measurable. Pigeons pecking at levers, gamblers at slot machines, and yes, humans in relationships all respond most intensely to intermittent reinforcement. The takeaway: when you're always available, you eliminate the emotional game, and ironically, the very engagement you crave. Esther Perel's research on erotic intelligence echoes this. Desire requires space, mystery, and the otherness of your partner. In pre-digital eras, absence was forced by circumstance. Today, it must be a conscious choice. John Bowlby's attachment theory gives us the clinical framework to understand why anxious attachment styles self-destruct. The protest behavior cycle, texting repeatedly, demanding reassurance, isn't just annoying. It's a biological misfire. Our primitive brain interprets unavailability as danger, triggering fight or flight responses even when no real threat exists. MRI studies show that rejection activates the same neural pathways as physical pain. This explains why being left on red can feel like a mortal wound. But here's what attachment researchers like Dr. Stan Tatkin emphasize. Secure relationships aren't built on constant contact. They're built on trust in the stability of the bond. The healthiest couples report feeling alone together, connected without suffocation. Tragically, the more an anxious attacher demands proof of love, the more they push their partner toward avoidance. This creates what psychologists call the pursuit-distance dynamic, a feedback loop that destroys intimacy. The solution? Rewire your attachment system through deliberate practice. Sit with discomfort, delay responses, and internalize that love isn't measured by response times. Friedrich Nietzsche's concept of the will to power argues that all human behavior is driven by the need to assert dominance over our environment, including social hierarchies. His scathing critique of herd mentality explains why those who follow the crowd are inherently less valued. Nietzsche's Übermensch creates their own values rather than begging for validation. This isn't about narcissism, it's about recognizing that scarcity is the foundation of all perceived value. Historical analysis of figures like Steve Jobs or Picasso reveals they intuitively understood this. Jobs' infamous reality distortion field relied on making his attention feel rare. Picasso would vanish for months, letting demand for his work escalate. Even nature obeys this law. Diamonds are valuable because they're scarce, not because they're useful. Apply this to your life. When you treat your time as a limited commodity, others will too. As Nietzsche wrote, the individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. If you try it, you will be lonely often and sometimes frightened. But no price is too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself. 21st century psychology has quantified what the ancients intuited. A 2023 meta-analysis in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that relationships with 75% responsiveness show the highest levels of satisfaction and longevity. This mirrors Robert Cialdini's scarcity principle in influence psychology. People assign more value to what's less accessible. Marketing studies show identical products sell better when labeled limited edition versus on sale. Your attention operates under the same rules. Neuroscientist Dr. Tara Swartz's work on status dynamics in the brain reveals that being slightly aloof triggers others' mirror neurons to pay more attention to you, literally making you more memorable. Even algorithms reward scarcity. Instagram posts with longer intervals between them get higher engagement. The lesson: strategic unavailability isn't manipulation. It's aligning with the fundamental laws of human motivation. As Sun Tzu wrote in The Art of War, appear weak when you are strong and strong when you are weak. Master this and you master the game. Here's the hard truth you need to hear. Every time you make yourself too available, you're not being kind, you're being forgettable. The moment you prioritize someone else's attention over your own worth, you hand them the power to undervalue you. Jung warned us about this. Freud proved it. Nietzsche built his entire philosophy on it. Scarcity isn't cruel, it's the fundamental law of human desire. Right now, someone in your life is taking you for granted. Not because they're evil, but because you trained them to. Your instant replies conditioned them to expect your attention. Your constant presence made you easy to ignore. Your fear of saying no turned you into an option rather than a priority. But this isn't about blame, it's about power. The power to reset relationships, the power to command respect, the power to make people miss you rather than expect you. So I'll leave you with this. The less available you are, the more valuable you become. Not as a game, but as a law of nature. The question is, are you ready to enforce that law in your own life? Drop power in the comments if you're done being taken for granted. Smash like if you're ready to make people respect your absence. And subscribe, because next week we're exposing the dark psychology of making people chase you. The choice is yours. But remember, in the economy of attention, scarcity always wins.